Godzilla has been quite the topic for months now, haven't it? For the right and wrong reasons. Only a few days ago I watched Godzilla Minus One and Godzilla vs. Kong: The New Empire, and I can't help but think that some people really try way too hard to sound like intellectuals online. Seriously, there are so many "the problem with Godzilla" videos all around that gets a bit tiring. All some of these people do in those videos is just ramble about how they hate American Godzilla and how much they like Japanese Godzilla. In reality, there is no problem with Godzilla, and even if there was, it would have nothing to do with this America versus Japan bullshit. Like seriously, partner, it's not that deep. When will people realize that art is subjective and everyone is free to discuss whether they like something or not, instead of being so entitled to their opinion to the point of believing their opinions are facts and everyone who disagrees with them is an idiot? Ugh. Yeah, mainstream, am I right? Let me get this straight. Godzilla is a character of multiple medias and iterations. It's just like Batman, Superman, Power Rangers, Sonic, Mario, Gundam, Thor, Dracula. All these characters, G-Man included, are almost mythical. They have been featured in countless pieces of media, so trying to limit him to only one type of characterization not only is utterly pointless, but also is an offense to artistic freedom itself. The same way we can have Adam West's Batman and Robert Pattinson's Batman, we can have the terrifying Godzilla from Minus One and Monsterverse Godzilla. Some people fail to realize that, but they could at least just say they prefer dark, gritty, and serious media. That would be perfectly fine. And I say it's not about America versus Japan because, with the exception of Godzilla Minus One, Shin Godzilla, and the original 1954, Japan always had funny portraits of Godzilla. If they think this is an American thing, how the hell do they As you can see, Godzilla always had funny portraits, made by the Japanese no less. America only started making Godzilla movies in 1998. Actually, 2014. Thing is, there are many different versions of Godzilla, and they're not limited by just country, and almost all of them are valid. Almost. But to understand what Godzilla is about, let me share with you my experience with some of the movies. The original 1954 movie is a classic, no doubt. The first time I watched it, I thought it was a masterpiece. The message was clear. Godzilla is an allegory to the nukes dropped in Japan not 10 years before the movie. It was to show how terrifying they were to everyone else. And that was the original point of Godzilla. He was meant to be terrifying. You're not supposed to cheer up when he shows up. You're supposed to stare in horror seeing so many people die horrifically to a seemingly unstoppable force, burning everything in its way to death, melting energy towers, leaving a trail of destruction as people lose their land. That scene of a mother telling their kids they'll be able to see their father again still holds up, and it's heartbreaking. The radio hosts announcing their last broadcast, yeah, that movie did its job right. It's still worth watching today, but if I'm honest, the second time I watched it, it wasn't as good. Godzilla is very well known to have boring human arcs, and it's not an American thing, you idiot. It's been there since the very first movie. They dragged it for me. However, another thing this movie did just right was to bring up the discussion of the food chain and the moral compass to it. Godzilla is terrifying, yes, he leaves a trail of destruction wherever he goes. He's an unstoppable force, a walking disaster. How do we stop him? A simple question, yet one which answer has the real impact. In order to stop an unstoppable force, we must become the unstoppable force. We have to become death, the destroyer of worlds, which is what Godzilla literally is. Doesn't it mean we are more terrifying than he is? Aren't we gonna bring up even more destruction? And that question couldn't stop floating over my mind when I watched it. Dr. Serizawa created the Oxygen Destroyer, a weapon that can kill Godzilla instantly, leaving nothing but a skeleton behind. That's the only way to stop Godzilla. It was absolutely necessary. But what happens after Godzilla is gone? Humans have the power to kill Godzilla. Who are gonna manage that power? Who is gonna stop them from using it against other humans? The government? Sure, they are the danger. And that's the question I wish it was asked about Mechagodzilla in Godzilla vs. Kong. And pretty much every time it appeared, Godzilla is terrifying enough, and to think someone could have their hands in their own Godzilla is a scary thing to think about. That's exactly what Oppenheimer thought to himself when he created the nuke. Now, Godzilla Minus One has been the talk of the town since its release. It's the first movie everyone agreed it was good, be it Godzilla fans or even people who dislike kaiju stuff in general, which is both a good and a bad thing. It's good to have more people enjoying stuff, but it's terrible when good stuff reach the mainstream. That way, good stuff that lasted decades may get ruined over the course of... Sorry, I'll leave the talk about gatekeeping for another video. It's just that too many tourists arrived to see Godzilla Minus One and started yapping online, and that bothers me a little too much, and I'm sure it's not just me. Anyway, the movie is great, yes, it's a rather psychological drama that puts you in the perspective of a victim of Godzilla. It makes you feel what it's like to witness the chaos and destruction Godzilla can bring, which in a way respects the original movie. Hell, it uses the same roar and music from the 1954 movie, talk about respect. Godzilla Minus One respects the original movie very well, but not to a point where it feels like a remake or a grifting parody. It still has identity and stands out among every other Godzilla movie. The point that probably stands out the most in Godzilla Minus One is the fact that it gets the human arc right. You just care about every character on screen, even when you're not given too much info about them. They're just charismatic, sympathetic, and in a way relatable. In a movie where you see the consequences of the trail of destruction left by Godzilla in an individual perspective, you get to sympathize with the people. And there's more weight to the events, which is what makes the movie so good. Now, the movie even has a happy ending. It brought a tear to my eye. But I swear I haven't noticed the scar until my friend told me. But besides that, I don't think I have much to say about it. It's a movie that's better to just watch. That said, something else bothers me, and it's not the fact that Godzilla Minus One audience is filled with tourists who complain about every other Godzilla movie. It's the fact that the same people have never watched Shin Godzilla. Seriously, the audacity to say Godzilla was never taken as seriously as in Minus One, and that Godzilla was never dark and gritty. And yeah, I'm not exaggerating, I've actually heard bullshit this big. Why do people ignore the existence of Shin Godzilla? It's almost as good as Godzilla Minus One, just scarier in my opinion. Shin Godzilla is different from most other Godzilla movies, in the sense that it's almost an entirely different monster. He's not much of a reptile here, more like a fish if anything. A fish that evolves fast, almost too fast to be defeated. And let me tell you, if he wasn't defeated by the end of this movie, the worst would have happened. This already makes it a different species. It's not millions of years old, it's way younger than some people. It's honestly an abomination even. It lacks all the talents Monsterverse Godzilla has. Like, he can't run, he can't violently whip his tail, he can't punch anything. He can just walk slowly and fire his atomic breath through its disgusting, bizarre mouth with a jaw that splits in two, turning the breath into a laser beam that also comes from his tail and his back. Fuck. That destruction in the movie was terrifying. Shin Godzilla's destruction was the worst out of any Godzilla movie. I was begging him to stop when I watched it for the first time, and if you want to know more, watch Goji Center's video and you'll learn that Monsterverse Godzilla can technically not defeat it. To top being an abomination, an unstoppable force, and an indestructible entity, Shin Godzilla also understands nothing. He acts purely by instinct. After all, he has no idea of what's happening. He just knows he's in pain, he's suffering, which is pretty sad to be honest. All that said, the best part of this movie, in my opinion at least, was how political it got. To see what would actually happen in case Godzilla was real and how Japanese politicians would handle it was nice. I actually liked it, it felt real, and there's a reason behind that. This movie is also different from all others in the sense that it's not an allegory to the nukes, but to the Fukushima disaster. It was Hideaki Anno's way to show the entire world how much Japanese politics suck and how poorly they handled the Fukushima disaster. Anno was basically saying, Fuck you, government, which was based as fuck. Couldn't expect less from the creator of Evangelion. I also like it how in this movie, Godzilla gets defeated in pacifist mode. He just gets frozen by many trucks and stayed there forever. My friend had an interesting interpretation to that. He thinks Godzilla staying in one place like a statue is a way to remind people of harder times, but also to live with that and move on. Well, until they look at its tail, because yes, I haven't paid attention to that part in the end of the movie until recently. Scary as fuck. And I'm glad this is left for us to wonder instead of continuing. I'm just glad Godzilla was stopped before that happened. Now, while I have watched Godzilla movies past 1954, my memories of them are blurry and there's too many to watch to remember what exactly happened in them. But for a lot of them, this story isn't particularly interesting anyway, just a deep lore Godzilla always had, particularly Mechagodzilla, but let's just move on to the movies I have better memories of. That's right, the Monsterverse, starting with Godzilla 2014, which to be honest is my second least favorite Godzilla movie in the franchise. And no, it has nothing to do with being an American movie. It's just the fact that I think it's boring. There's just too much focus on humans in this movie, not enough Godzilla, and it gets too educational with its science. Trailers were misleading to a lot of people in the sense that Godzilla isn't the villain in this movie, he's actually the hero and didn't feel as destructive as expected. But for that I blame the poor understanding of scale the Monsterverse has, making the kaijus look like they're not so big. He saved us from the Mutos, you know, those ugly alien things, one killed with a badass fatality Godzilla style. Thank you, G-Man, but you deserve a better movie that won't kill Walter White, the only opponent that could even try to defeat you. Fortunately, G-Man got it. I watched Godzilla King of the Monsters in theaters and it was fun. I felt like I was watching a fighting game with kaijus on the big screen. I could hear Shao Kahn saying,
"Round 1, fight!"
when a fight started. But that's what it was, dumb fun. Same for Godzilla vs. Kong 1 and 2. I feel like people are being just a little too harsh on the first movie. Quite honestly, I loved the Hollow Earth part. It made the lore about that universe deeper. Like, I already enjoyed everything in Kong Skull Island. It had an amazing world building and interesting characters with arcs that didn't feel boring at all. It's an exclusivity of Kong Skull Island and Godzilla Minus One. But that's all there was to it, the Hollow Earth and when Mechagodzilla joined the fight. The movie wasn't bad, but could have been better. I wish the whole movie was about Mechagodzilla and the discussion to whether or not humans should have the power of a kaiju. Missed opportunity in my opinion. The second movie explored the lore even further. I felt like that movie finally embraced the dumb fun vibes it should have been given a long time ago. It's funny when it needs to be, it experiments with its spectacular action, and it did what was promised. It felt like an adventure for Kong, which I liked. It had minimal human interactions, and it worked when it was necessary. I also find it funny how this movie in particular had giant CGI monsters acting more naturally than some humans. Seriously, sometimes in the movie you see the monsters communicating with each other and I almost thought I was reading subtitles. The kaijus had a lot of personality in this movie, but especially Kong. He's the protagonist after all. And now that I talked about the biggest entries in the franchise, I want to talk about the worst of Godzilla. I did say Godzilla 2014 is my second least favorite in the franchise, didn't I? Can you guess which one is my least favorite? Is it Godzilla 1998? No, believe it or not, it isn't. To be honest, I actually enjoyed that movie. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. I can agree with one thing, it's not really a Godzilla movie. It's a giant dinosaur laying eggs, but that's not Godzilla. It's a good kaiju movie, but not a Godzilla one. If it was given a different name, perhaps people wouldn't treat it too harshly. When you put that in mind, you can actually enjoy it. Now answering that question, the worst Godzilla movies, in my opinion, were the Netflix animation trilogy. Those were god-awful. Not only it had ass animation that makes my pictures made on Koikatsu look like a masterpiece, but it also had an awful plot. First part is spent almost entirely in space discussing boring topics involving science. Second part teases us extremely hard about Mechagodzilla just to blue ball us and say an industrial city is the Mechagodzilla, and the third part had a gigantic piece of Chinese noodle hugging Godzilla with no action whatsoever, because I refuse to call that Ghidorah, and every character there was insufferable. Godzilla once again felt like he was out of the loop. Only unnecessary shit was happening on screen, like a child telling the protagonist she wants to reproduce. I asked myself who the hell thought that was a good idea to begin with. I loathe that trilogy and I wish I could erase it from my memory, but I guess it'll be a reminder of me watching worse movies. Seriously partner, don't watch that shit. All in all, there are many versions of Godzilla, and not only in movies, there are countless comics for you to read, and there is no right or wrong way to portray the G-Man. Godzilla 1954, Shin Godzilla, and Godzilla Minus One portrays him as a terrifying, destructive, chaotic, and evil force of nature, while Monsterverse portrays him as a powerful, dominant, and imponent hero. On one side you have a more serious, dark, gritty and dramatic movies, on the other you have spectacular, fun and entertaining ones, and both can exist without excluding the other. Godzilla doesn't have one exclusive theme. Some people want to see the terrifying one, others want to see it fighting other monsters spectacularly. Both need to exist, otherwise it would become repetitive, and the same applies to everything else. Not everything needs to be one tone, because if that was the case, it would eventually become boring. Same way you don't play a massive open world RPG after another. You want a short game next, probably a platformer or something. That's how it works. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. For more videos about movies, video games and anime, please like and subscribe. I'll catch you later then.